It is a tiny little Band-Aid on the gashing wound of the hemorrhage of funding to hundreds of our school districts. In almost every one of our districts, there are school districts that have really been decimated by S2. You could argue the first few years of the 7-year phase-in of S2 were legit. These schools were getting more funding than they deserved under the school funding formula. Fair enough. However, the last 3 to 4 years of these districts, it's been brutal, and we've all heard the stories. We've heard it in budget year after year. These school districts are being decimated. They're losing programs. They're going to huge increases in students per classroom. For the governor to stand before us year after year over the past several years, saying the increase in school aid that he was proposing was going to benefit every student and every taxpayer in New Jersey was absolutely false. It devastated hundreds of districts. The fact that we need to do this bill at all is a real problem. And it's an indication of one of the greatest abdications of responsibility in the legislature and by an administration in 30 years. We should have fixed our school funding formula years ago. It's 20 years old. Much of it is completely out of touch with reality now. Had we done that 4 or 5 years ago, we wouldn't need to do this bill. We could have put $2.5 billion more into our schools over the last 5 or 6 years rather than $3.5, made whole the school districts that were being underfunded, avoided S2 cuts for the ones that are being decimated, and probably lopped $1 billion off our structural deficit. We could have done all that, and I pleaded for it, Republicans pleaded for it, and many of you echo that. We did nothing. We did nothing. And we squandered that opportunity. To hear some of my friends on the other side of the aisle say, well, now we're going to go around to remaking the school funding formula. Look, we could do that. We should. But it's too late to really have had the dramatic impact we could have. We were flush with cash. We had time. Now, if you go to try to claw back some of the money that's gone out the door to the districts that were underfunded, you ain't never getting that money back. It's a real shame that we missed that opportunity. Here, this Band-Aid is a problem as well. It refunds or gives back pennies on the dollar to these districts that have lost millions and millions of dollars. And it provides for massive tax increases on the beleaguered taxpayers, property taxpayers in many of these districts. It is a solution that is outrageously flawed to those taxpayers and to those kids in those districts. Going to be devastated. So with that, Mr. President, and by the way, the Republican solution here, which I'm going to propose to substitute in a second, would put back not $41 million, but $200 million. And we pay for it in money that has not been spent on projects like French art museums that I know has been talked about a lot, but now everyone agrees is a fool's errand. So by telling these kids that you can replace art and you can replace all these lost programs and music and after-school programs with an opportunity to go and for a few moments gaze at a Matisse is not a wise investment of our money. So with that, Mr. President, pursuant to Senate Rule 17:2, I move that Senate Bill 3081 be placed back on second reading for the purposes of amendment.